everyone, my name is Tara. I'm a recovering automation developer and the technical community specialist for Provar. Thanks for joining me today on this adventure in Dungeons & Dragons, becoming the hero of the sprint. As you can see, I like to wear tiaras, and I love solving a good puzzle. A little bit more about me. I hold dual degrees in mathematics and computer science, and I've been a manual and automation tester for almost a decade now. I've been lucky enough to work with teams in a variety of industries, including insurance, industrial ventilation, and biotechnologies. In my free time, I love a good video game, or even a tabletop one. I have been playing Dungeons & Dragons for nearly 2 decades now. Since this is pre-recorded, let me know in the chat if you're a D&D player too. This character you see, this little purple lady, that's my rogue Nicala. She's part demon, known as a tiefling, and she's not the best rogue. She's a little bit clumsy, mostly because my dice seem to hate rolling high on typical rogue skills, things like stealth and disarming traps. But that's okay, because everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. Figuring out how to be Nicala has taught me a lot along the way, some of which I hope to share with you today. On this quest of how to become the hero of your sprint, we'll talk about how D&D has helped me optimize team performance and culture, how a diverse software development experiences can shape software quality, how to beat back the undead as a team with RCA, and how to help you better partner with your development team. But what does Dungeons & Dragons have to do with software development? To answer that question, we have to first understand just a little bit about D&D. Hopefully most of you know what Dungeons & Dragons is. It's the first tabletop role-playing game that can be played with just a writing utensil, some paper, and dice. And maybe a rulebook. The premise is an open world where the goal of the gaming is just telling a collaborative story. Not only have I been a fan of the game for years for the excitement and tackling big problems and spending time with my friends, but I love the escapism it offers in these globally trying times. But what does it have to do with software and DevOps? Well, let's take a look. Adventuring teams are a group of people gathered from different backgrounds and skill sets with the purpose of accomplishing a goal. DevOps teams are also a group of people gathered from different backgrounds and skill sets with the purpose of accomplishing a goal. Each D&D character at the table is unique, with a backstory and experiences that belong only to them. A well-written character has fears and goals, just as unique as any person on your DevOps team. How can we use that information to help us optimize our team performance and culture? Well, the cast of characters assembled in both teams are from a variety of archetypes. To understand D&D, you have to get to know the types of characters you can play. DevOps teams may include a project manager, maybe a business analyst, several developers, hopefully a couple of testers, maybe a designer. Each person has a skill set that they're most proficient at. One might be a database guru, or another team member is just insanely good at JavaScript. Archetypes in D&D are not so different. Every character has a set of traits that they rely on to help hone their skills, and a set of skills that makes them really great at their job. Each type of character has their favored weapons, armor, even the terrain that can give them bonuses. Likewise, DevOps members have their own favorite tools, programming languages, and their ideal work environment bolstering their strengths. So working together, well, hopefully, and if you're lucky, you have a good working relationship with everyone on your team. It's not unusual these days to spend a ton of that time in meetings. It's hard to collaborate, though, sometimes when your team might be in multiple time zones or even just different sleep schedules. An Atlassian study showed that almost half of their respondents say that meetings are the #1 time waster at work. It's often only one person that speaks up, or everyone's zoned out and doing whatever else they're doing. That same study showed 73% of respondents admitting to doing other things while in meetings, from checking email and doing household chores, even playing video games. I think one of the reasons that people dread a 30-minute meeting, but gladly partake in an 8-hour gaming session, is the chance to actively participate and be heard. My favorite thing about D&D is that everyone gets to be involved in creating the story. Everybody goes around in a turn and explains what their character is doing. And each turn, when you decide what your character is doing, then you roll the dice and you have to live with the consequences. A 20-sided die will give you the statistical chance of success. When you roll too low, your actions might fail. But a little bit of help from a teammate can go a long way. For example, a little halfling might be struggling to climb over a tall wall. What if the much larger orc in the group hears this and then decides to lift them up instead of climbing over themselves? Or the bard might sing of their triumph, bolster their confidence, and give that final push the halfling needs to pull themselves up. In either event, the wall's no longer a blocker for the halfling and the party can continue on. D&D isn't about blame, unless you're blaming your dice. Instead, you succeed or fail as a team. It's about working together as a team and using our skills to the best of our ability to create a great story. If you have a team member struggling, you can help by giving a pep talk, lending advice, or working on the problem together. DevOps is about about your team using their skills to the best of their ability to create a great piece of software. We have to actively engage by planning and creating a strategy for everything to run smoothly. And D&D takes a lot of strategy too. A part of that strategy is planning around each character's strengths and weaknesses. It also takes figuring out the pace each person can move at and how that affects the team. Not every character moves at the same rate. In D&D, we call it movement, but in DevOps, it might be called sprint points or stories or even capacity. The pace setter of your DevOps team might be a smaller team that has less personnel, or it might be the person on your team with the least amount of experience. How many times have we heard that testing is the bottleneck before release? But often there's only one tester for every 5 or 6 developers, and testing doesn't begin until everything's actually ready. That means that QA is often the party member with the slowest movement. Teams can't always add more testers, and the team's velocity affects budgets, users, quality. So what can we do to not sacrifice that quality? Well, certain testing tasks take up a lot of time. Automation can speed up testing, keeping testers moving forward by taking some of the testing load off their shoulders. According to GatePoint's 2022 State of Testing Automation Report, 66% of respondents still automate fewer than half of their tests. Yet releases are happening more and more frequently, allowing more defects to slip through more often. Tools like Provar make it easy and intuitive to add automated tests, no matter what your job title, creating an opportunity for developers and product owners to create tests just as quickly and easily as a tester. By planning what to automate and what might need more manual attention, testing can be focused and often implemented earlier into development. When it comes down to those last hours before release, pairing and mobbing can also increase testing speeds by getting more sets of eyes looking for any issues. Like every turn in D&D, each sprint is a new chance to move forward. Good communication will always be the foundation of a strong team. With a plan and the right strategy, your team can accomplish their goals. The key takeaway here: open lines of communication can foster better cooperation and maybe even faster testing cycles. But what else can we do to ensure great communication? Making sure all of the voices on your team are present and heard. One of the easiest ways to shift your testing left is to bring testers into the conversation earlier. You'd never go into a D&D battle with a group of only healers. Could they get the job done? Sure, maybe eventually. But how long would it take? How many resources would it cost them? And what would the outcome be? You could have a team of full-stack developers succeed, but would it cost more money or have more bugs and UX issues? There's a reason that both D&D and software development take a team full of different specialties and experiences. Just like our D&D character counterparts, each one of us has a unique backstory that contains all the things that make you you. Each skill, specialty, experience that manifests in a unique contribution to the task at hand. It's okay to not know how to do something or to not be the best at it. You have your team to lean on. Have confidence in the things that you know and remember what makes you singularly qualified to do you. One of the best things about playing Dungeons and Dragons is the diversity of characters. In a world of fantasy, you can be as creative as you like. There's no limits based on race or gender roles, economic status, or religion. Somehow, it's perfectly logical to have team members from a completely different plane of existence. With so much different experience and expertise in the conversation, making sure all parties get to speak up on their turn, it's logical to draw from the experience of others when faced with a challenge. And to avoid writing soft bias into our software, it takes some diversity to overcome the problem. When I first entered the tech space, I had no experience as a developer or tester to draw on. I spent many years before that processing insurance claims. But it was that experience that not only got me the job at an insurance software company, but gave me special insight when testing their software. I was able to point out problems and inconsistencies that weren't seen before because I'd been on the other side of this type of software as a user. Not all conversations go smoothly, though. As my road note character Nicola and her team encountered big decisions, it was sometimes necessary to struggle through civil discourse. It became apparent our characters and the players behind them had varying viewpoints that could take effort to reconcile. Our experiences simply made us see things differently. The more often we had these discussions, though, the more effective we were able to work as a team. Diverse groups also perform better. In 2014 report for Scientific American, Columbia professor Catherine W. Phillips found that the act of interacting in a diverse group improves performance because it forces group members to prepare better, to anticipate alternative viewpoints, and to expect that reaching consensus is going to take effort. This is something that D&D has become known for among psychologists, and has more recently been used by youth programs to foster exactly those skills. Applying this concept to DevOps is as easy as looking around your team and asking if there's a voice missing. Should there be a better range of representation? Is part of your team that might be helpful left out of a specific meeting? Do you need a second set of eyes on something? But regardless of how well our teams work together and how well we've planned, there are always challenges, right? My D&D party spent months on different adventures, but no matter what task we were undertaking, it seemed like there was always undead just around the corner. Imagine every session, regardless of what you're going after, always running into this guy, or many of them, hordes of them. It took far longer than any of us would like to admit to that they had to be coming from somewhere. But where? It took the entire team investigating, exploring different places, and gathering information from different people to find the root cause of our problem. We'd happened to make enemies of a necromancer, who was now set on our destruction and was sending these guys to pop up at every turn. Feel familiar? I think we've all had that one bug that just keeps coming up again and again, even when you're not working anywhere near it. You slay the bug, move on victoriously, just for it to pop up on the next iteration. And sometimes that bug is just a symptom of a different problem. Taking a lesson from D&D, the DevOps team has a perfect opportunity to mob the problem. Get into the same room or on a Zoom call and start exploring the software together, gathering information and investigating as a team. New eyes on the problem can bring morsels of information and new insight that adds to your root cause analysis. We all have blind spots, and when we work together, we can get a full picture and find new patterns. This can help narrow down the search until you find that necromancer inside your code causing that recurring bug, and you can take down the root cause of all your problems. I'd love to know if you have any different tactics in the comments. This experience might even leave you with a new set of skills or a new tool for your toolbox. One of the most significant ways for becoming a better partner, though, in your team is investing in yourself. Right? At the D&D table, every session or encounter has the opportunity to grant your character experience points. I used my experience points for Nikala and invested them in new skills. The poor rogue never learned to stealth or disarm traps very well, but after gaining enough experience points, she ended up multiclassing and picking up skills in magic. In-game, this translated to me picking up skills from the wizard class. But in the story, our wizard took pity on the clumsy rogue and taught her the new skills. It took a lot of leveling up and fighting my way through some really tough scenarios to get the skills I wanted, but eventually I had a great skill set that served my character well. As a test automation engineer, I had to learn unusual things like how changing a motor size could impact the airflow of a ventilation fan. More often than not, though, it just meant learning a new tool, a new tech stack, or even a new programming language. A great example is when I first moved from manual testing to automated testing. I hadn't coded in that language before, but I knew how the test needed to be set up. As a developer, with a developer, I sat down and we developed the framework together so that it would be easy to add to and maintain. I asked a lot of questions and Googled even more, but piece by piece, I learned the basics of automation. Something that felt so out of my reach is now something I can do without a second thought because my teammate helped me gain those skills. The more I learned, the fewer questions I had to ask, and then people started coming to me with those questions, and that felt pretty good. We don't always have the skills and the resources on our immediate team. When struggling with tasks that your direct team can't help you with, maybe due to time constraints or not knowing the answer themselves, there's always places to turn to. I may be a bit biased, but as a community builder, this is where community really shines. Joining a community can give you a plethora of resources, and even more diverse cast of characters to lean on for their expertise. There are Slack and Discord communities for a variety of interests and skills. I'm not a social media fan, and I had to change the way that I use social media to make it work for me. Follow your favorite experts on Twitter and LinkedIn. Y'all, if you're not on Twitter, I highly recommend it. There are so many amazing conversations, and I have absolutely fallen in love with Twitter Spaces. It really is the interactive podcast that we deserve. And then go ahead and attend the meetups groups. Having conversations with a diverse group of people is exactly why I created my meetup group, the League of Extraordinary DevOps. And devs, don't discount joining testing communities. QA, the devs aren't as scary as you think. They want you in there too. I'd love to know your favorite communities in the chat. So slaying the big bad guy at the end game is a wonderful feeling, right? We finally found that bug. We've killed our necromancer. There's usually a reward involved. Your characters get experience, gold, treasures. It's not that easy in the real world. Often the appreciation of a job well done goes unsaid as you just chug along and continue on to the next release. But take the time to reward your team with their own version of gold and treasures. It's not always about a promotion or salary increase either. Send thank you notes or bring donuts to that early morning meeting. In a 2-year study from Deloitte, 3/4 of professionals said a simple thank you is all it takes to make them feel recognized. 41% said they would like more recognition from their immediate peers. And according to Gallup in 2021, 75% of those who say their teams receive praise also strongly agree that they have the feeling that what they're doing at work is valuable and useful, reinforcing your team's sense of purpose. It's so easy to get wrapped up in the fast delivery cycles, but make sure to set aside that small slice of time to invest in your skills, engage with social media more, and say thank you for those that are helping you grow. I know there's been a lot of information, so here's a few things I hope you can take away to help you become the hero of your next sprint. 1, get involved. Be active in your meetings and in your communities. Listen to as many voices as you can to guide your quest for quality. RCA really is a great team bonding adventure. And most importantly, never stop trying to be the best version of you by continuously learning and giving gratitude. In the spirit of celebrating teams, I wanted to take a second to thank my team at Crowbar for all of their moral support and encouragement. Without their support and a lot of editing, I wouldn't be presenting today. Thank you to my community as well for helping me tackle my nerves and for always teaching me something new. I hope you find me on LinkedIn and Twitter, and bonus points if I see you at my new meetup group, the League of Extraordinary DevOps. I'd love to continue this conversation there.